Hello friends, welcome to this video. Welcome to my cosy corner. We're in a slightly different spot in my office. I've got a daybed in my office, which is just fabulous. Anyway, this video is not about me snoozing. So I'm just about to start on a small series of paintings. I have some gessoed wooden boards here. I've got 4 of them and I'm going to start some paintings. So I just thought I'd talk to you about my thought process, what I think these paintings are going to be, and share some of the process and some of my thoughts as I start painting. And I thought maybe I'd check in at the end of every painting session and just show you what I've done and some of the things I've been thinking about. So before I start a series of paintings, I like to have some ideas in my back pocket about what the paintings may be about. These are some studies that I have painted over an old painting, and I've photocopied some pieces from my sketchbook and I've stuck them on and I've added some white acrylic paint. And I'm really enjoying some of the shapes, some of the spaces, some of the combinations, the juxtaposition of the dark paint with the white painted areas. So they are interesting me, the line work, the patterns. And here are a few pages in my sketchbook and I'm enjoying some of the shapes and some of the lines. And so these are the ideas that I'm going to have with me as I start painting. But what seems to happen to me is that I have an idea, but I hold on to it loosely. As soon as I add paint onto the boards or onto the canvas, then the paintings take on a life and direction of their own. So this is where I am at the end of day 1. So I prepped each of these panels. They had gesso as a base and then they had a single colour ground, and then I've just added some paint, and I was adding paint in a very sort of free and playful way with the intention that I was going to come in and cover all of this up. So only some of it would be peeping through. So in these examples, I've put a sort of dark blue, indigo, black over another painting, and you can kind of see some of the history and memory of the painting is peeping through. And that was my intention with these paintings, was to basically cover all of this up. But now I have these paintings in front of me. There is something that I'm really liking about the colour conversation. There's some really lovely passages and moments that are exciting me. And this is what I mean when I say I have an intention and then I start on my journey and then I have to pivot and change and respond to what is actually right in front of me. So I had another day of painting yesterday, and this is where I'm at. I really liked what was on these boards, but I knew that I had to make it darker because I want to come in over the top, some sort of weird and wonky vase shapes and some vessels, and be inspired by these studies here. And so these studies got a really dark background, and I just knew that I needed to darken up these paintings. So I basically spent the whole day faffing. And sometimes that happens with art making, doesn't it? I've added in some more paint to try and darken up these backgrounds. I mean, I wouldn't call them backgrounds, but that's what they are. I've spent 2 days on these paintings and I haven't got past the background. I had to paint over bits that I liked yesterday. So I've just added in some more paint. I did a lot of painting with a rag yesterday. I just had a cotton rag and added the paint on with the rag, rubbed it on, rubbed it off. It was one of those days. So I'm hoping today is going to be the day where I really start to decide on the composition of these paintings, because they're not going to look like this. So I've got another whole day in the studio and I want to move these paintings closer to what they're actually going to be at the end. There's something exciting about not knowing how these paintings are going to turn out. There's something rewarding about not knowing where I'm going and having to respond to what's in front of me, make another decision, make another decision, make another decision. When I do this kind of video, I often get messages saying, well, I liked your paintings 4 stages before. And you're like, yeah, maybe. There's no certainty, is there? I'm just going to try stuff and respond, try stuff and respond, and see what happens. and try and enjoy the process, enjoy the journey, enjoy the discovery, not be too cross if I take a misstep. It's just paint, isn't it? It's just paint. So I had a really good day painting yesterday. I spent about 8 hours painting and I got into a real flow. And that's often the way, isn't it? Painting sometimes involves sessions that are frustrating, sessions that are really enjoyable. And these paintings have really moved on, I think. So these paintings are really quite different from when I last saw you. I just had one of those days where everything seemed to work. So I came in originally with some white paint and mapped out a composition on each of the paintings. And then I just worked on all four, adding a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. And I just kept going round and round all the paintings. I'm pleased with where they're at. They're not finished, but they're moving in the right direction. So I've spent 3 days on them now. And now that they're at this sort of stage where I can see what they're going to be, so I'm going to leave them for a couple of days and then I'm going to come back to them and see what needs changing. And I think at this point in the painting process, I won't be making big changes. I'll be tightening and refining, and the changes I make will become smaller and smaller and smaller until there's nothing in the paintings that is bothering me or niggling at me or irritating me. So I'm just going to let them settle for a couple of days. I find it useful to have space in between the painting and the assessing. It gives me a bit more objectivity. So I've written some notes as I was going. I wrote some notes thinking about what I wanted to remember about this painting process for myself, and I thought I'd share the notes with you as well. So if you've been here before, you know that I really like to write as a way to organise my thinking, as a way to literally capture my thoughts. So before I started painting, I wrote some notes about what I wanted these paintings to be, and they're quite far away from it. I'd written antique embroidery, weird and wonderful vases, pattern and lines, hidden treasure, spaciousness and complexity. Well, I mean, maybe they're not that far away from it. They weren't what I thought I was going to paint, that's for sure. And I've written here, painting is an act of hope and optimism. Hold your intention loosely. That's right, hold the intention loosely. So I set out with some intentions, but then actually you have to respond to what is. You have to respond to what's on your board, the paint, the marks, the colours, and go with that. I've put flow and frustration are part of the magic, and that's right. I had a day of frustration followed by a day of flow. So I had a day where I was doubting myself and unsure and not knowing how to proceed and full of self-doubt and uncertainty. And then the day after, things seemed to flow. So I've also put here, no one way to paint. And I think that's really important. The process that I use to paint is the process that suits the way I enjoy painting, but also the end result that I want. So it's really important to find a process that A, you enjoy, and B, matches the end result that you want. So for a lot of people, this way of painting might be bananas. And that's fine. You know, you might want to just draw out what you're going to paint and paint it. For me, I like there to be a hidden history and the layers of complexity, and for the paintings to feel like they are an object that has history, that has antiquity. And so this is why I paint this way. The process matches the end result that I'm after. What else have I put here? Colours. I started with a really harmonious colour palette, and then I just came in at the very end of yesterday and I added in some of this blue colour, and I really like that unexpected pop. I like what it's done to the painting. So I've just made some notes about colour. So I'm going to leave these paintings and then I'm going to come back. I'll probably spend another day painting or more, depending on what I decide they need. I think I'm going to add in some gold paint because I really like that effect. So I know I'm going to do that, and I'm going to tighten up some of the lines, maybe darken some of the dark areas, just have a bit of a tidy up, some of the edges, just sort of tighten everything. And then when they are done, I will varnish them. So I'll put a couple of layers of UV varnish on, and then they'll be done. So I estimate that these 4 paintings will take me 5 days in total, I don't really know if that's short or long. That's just how long it takes me to develop some paintings. So I'll come back with another video just showing you how they actually turned out, because I'm going to leave them now. I'm just going to let them be and put them away, and then I'll sneak up on them in a few days' time and look at them with clearer eyes, I think. But generally, I'm liking how they have turned out. They're not what I thought they were going to be, but I like I like what happened.